Welcome back to our channel. Today we are diving into the fascinating world of automobiles to explore the 30 weirdest cars of all time. From unconventional designs to mind-boggling features, these vehicles have certainly left their mark in automotive history. So, buckle up and join us on this exciting journey as we unveil some of the most peculiar rides ever created. Introducing the 2019 Vision Mercedes Simplex, a stunning tribute to the iconic 1901 race car that marked the birth of the Mercedes name. This extraordinary vehicle combines the timeless elegance of the past with the cutting-edge technology of today. The Vision Mercedes Simplex pays homage to its predecessor by embracing the same front-engine layout. Its motor is ingeniously placed low in the chassis, allowing for optimal weight distribution and enhanced performance. The digital display can showcase the iconic Mercedes logo in its original script, reminding us of the rich heritage behind this remarkable brand. The 2019 Vision Mercedes Simplex, a true masterpiece that seamlessly blends the past and the present. Experience the elegance, innovation, and legacy of Mercedes-Benz like never before. It's hard to classify the 2020. The Lunar Roving Vehicle, also known as the Lunar Rover or LRV, was driven in its intended environment only by a half-dozen people. Designed by Boeing in just 17 months, LRVs traveled to the moon's surface on the Apollo 15, 16, and 17 missions. Its electric drive system consisted of a 1/4 horsepower electric motor at each wheel. Four-wheel steering enabled the rover to make tight turns around obstacles. It could travel at speeds up to about 10 miles per hour, according to Boeing. A computerized navigation system on the Lunar Rover's dash helped keep the astronauts from getting lost on the moon, much like the navigation systems in today's cars keep people from getting lost on the way to Taco Bell. The 4 LRVs built cost $38 million. 3 of them remain on the moon, with the 4th never leaving the Earth. Chrysler is known as the inventor of the minivan, and the Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid is one of the best ones you can buy today. The concept, however, goes back far beyond the first Dodge Caravan to the 1935 Stout Scarab. Only 9 Stout Scarabs were produced, making the surviving examples prized collector cars. It was rear-engine and rear-wheel drive, with unibody construction instead of a body riding on a separate chassis. The Scarab had seating for 6 in its well-furnished cabin. It included polished wood trim, a headliner made of wicker, and a card table. The middle seats could swivel 180 degrees, making the vehicle the perfect mobile office of the time. The Stout Scarab's designer, William Bushnell Stout, was a Ford Motor Company executive and also worked on the most successful airplane of the era, the Ford Tri-Motor. The Mercedes AVTR, short for Advanced Vehicle Transformation, is not just a car. It's a masterpiece of engineering and imagination. Inspired by the movie Avatar, this concept car pushes the boundaries of what we thought was possible. One of the most remarkable features of the AVTR is its ability to crab walk. Yes, you heard it right. This car can move sideways, just like a crab. This innovative technology allows for enhanced maneuverability, making tight parking spaces a breeze. But that's not all. The AVTR offers a truly immersive driving experience. With its dual-seat configuration, you have the freedom to choose whether you want to drive from the left or right seat. It's a true embodiment of versatility and convenience. The AVTR is powered by an advanced electric drivetrain, ensuring a sustainable and eco-friendly driving experience. It's a step towards a greener future without compromising on performance or style. Despite what we all saw in the Jetsons, flying cars that can fly are a long way off. In 1961, however, you could have a car that was also a boat. The 1961 Amphicar featured a pair of propellers that could provide a cruising speed of up to 7 knots. The car's front tires acted as rudders, guiding the vehicle through the water. It was made in Germany from 1961 to 1967. It was the most popular non-military amphibious vehicle in history, with nearly 4,000 made over its production run. More would have been sold, but the Amphicar had a high price tag and unimpressive performance both on and off the water. One of the most famous Amphicar owners was President Lyndon B. Johnson. Many believe that the future lies with electric vehicles, but alternatively fueled vehicles also dot our past. The Lurf Electrique, the electric egg, concept car was created by industrial designer Paul Arzens, who designed railway locomotives and cars, built an electric vehicle partially because of a gasoline shortage during World War II. The three-wheeled vehicle has an electric motor and battery pack, with 63 miles to a battery charge and a top speed of 44 miles per hour. The body of the car was constructed of aluminum and plexiglass. With the motor and battery, the car weighed in at only 771 pounds. The unusual shape allowed for a 270-degree view of the outside. The car still exists today and can be seen at the Cité de l'Automobile in Mulhouse, France. In the early years of car design, ideas flew fast and furious. Frenchman and biplane designer Marcel Layat believed that cars were too heavy and not aerodynamic. He also thought that power-driven wheels with a transmission, rear axle and clutch were unnecessary and added weight. His solution? A propeller-driven, wingless automobile. The Helica has an 18-horsepower, 1,000cc Harley-Davidson V-twin, two-cylinder engine, and a lightweight, streamlined plywood body that weighs 550 pounds. The wheels are custom aluminum discs with integrated brakes that further reduce drag. In 1927, one Helica recorded a top speed of 106 miles per hour. Due to a lack of funding, only 30 were built, and 23 were reportedly sold. Ultimately, a vehicle with what amounts to a massive blender on the front didn't take off, so to speak, and is widely considered to be unsafe. Call it an early alternative fuel vehicle. The 1963 Chrysler Turbine was powered by a pair of turbines. Rather than a traditional internal combustion engine, it could run on anything from JP4 jet fuel to perfume. Each of the 200 two-door coupes made was finished in turbine bronze paint. Its turbine power plants provided 130 horsepower and an astonishing 450 pound-feet of torque. Instead of selling the car, Chrysler lent the 200 vehicles to hand-picked families for testing. Only 9 survive today, according to Chrysler, and 5 are drivable. The technology was never used in a production model sold in dealerships. It looks like an F-117 stealth fighter is priced like a supercar and is outfitted with a uniquely luxurious interior. It's the most expensive SUV you can buy. The $2.2 million Carlman King is produced in Italy by a Chinese car company. The massive truck weighs almost 5 tons. Based on a Ford F550 truck chassis with a 6.8-liter V10, the outrageous and optionally armored SUV is outfitted with a 45 flat panel display, a Sony PlayStation 4, opulent reclining seats, a built-in coffee maker, and much more. Isn't $2.2 million a small price to pay for a starring role in your own sci-fi movie? The Plymouth Prowler, and later Chrysler Prowler, was a modern interpretation of a 1932 Ford hot rod. Leading the way were cycle fenders that just covered the front wheels, leaving the suspension exposed for all to see. Its convertible cabin had a raked-back windshield and 2 seats. Plymouth's Roadster shared many components with other Chrysler products, including its underpowered V6, which came from the company's LH sedans. No manual was ever offered, only a 4-speed automatic with an auto-stick manual shifter. Launched to critical and market acclaim due to its design, the Prowler never really found its voice. It lasted from 1997 to 2002. Its final years came with a Chrysler badge, following the demise of the Plymouth brand. One of the more fascinating stories in the history of the US car market involves Preston Tucker and his dream of putting the 1948 Tucker 48 on the road, called the Tucker Torpedo. By some, the car includes some features that are only now finding their way to widespread use. Tucker designed the car for safety, with a full perimeter frame and a roll bar to shield passengers from collision injuries. Its center headlights swiveled to illuminate the way around corners, much like today's adaptive headlights do. The Tucker's dash was padded, and steering column was designed to prevent injuries to the driver. Shatterproof glass was used for the fastback sedan's windshield. The fledgling Tucker company only produced 51 cars, of which 47 survive. The story of Tucker and his vision was told in a movie directed by Francis Ford Coppola. The 1973 Volkswagen Thing had its roots in a Jeep-like utility vehicle from 1960s Europe. The Type 181, which was the spiritual descendant of the German Kübelwagen, was built from 1969 to 1980. In 1973 and 1974, it came to the US as the Volkswagen Thing. It was as bare bones as anything Volkswagen offered, and that says something. The convertible Thing had excellent ground clearance, an automatic locking rear differential, and not much else. Its list of safety features started and ended at seatbelts. Power came from a 55 horsepower engine that tried hard but struggled. Like the modern-day Jeep Wrangler, the Thing's windshield could fold forward onto the hood. The one-off Signet V8 is the most hilarious city car in history. The Aston Martin Signet was produced from 2011 through 2013 as a response to the European Union's new fuel economy regulations. The tiny city car weighs just under 2,200 pounds and is based on the Scion IQ. Under the hood, however, the Signet is powered by a 1.3-litre four-cylinder with 97 horsepower and a top speed of only 106 miles per hour, the same as the 1921 Fiat Helica. While Aston Martin planned to produce 4,000 of these diminutive cars, only 300 were sold globally. Spotting the hot dog car on the road is sure to produce a lot of excitement, especially if you have anyone under the age of 12 in the car. The first Oscar Mayer Wienermobile was created in 1936 by Karl Mayer as an advertising ploy. There are now 6 Wienermobiles on the road at any given time. Each Wienermobile begins life as an Isuzu NPR medium-duty commercial truck with a Chevrolet L96 6.0-liter V8 engine. Inside are 6 plush ketchup and mustard-colored seats. Sadly, it's not actually stocked with hot dogs, but you may be able to snag a plush wiener or a coveted wiener whistle. While the Lotus Ofia may not strike everyone as weird, its James Bond styling and $2+ million price tag firmly place it in the category of unusual and out of reach for most. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the price tag doesn't include invisibility or rocket propulsion. Only 130 models of this all-electric car are being made as a tribute to its Lotus type number. Although it lacks James Bond's rocket, it does boast 2,000 horsepower and will go from 0 to 60 in less than 3 seconds. And at just over 3,700 pounds, it is expected to be the lightest EV hypercar ever to enter production. The Trident was launched at the 1964 British Motorcycle Show held at Earl's Court. The seat, stated as being 31 and 79 centimeter wide, was intended to provide for use as an occasional two-seater. The Trident was manufactured in 1965 and 1966 with a weight of 150 kilograms. It uses a 49 Stethi engine, which generates a top speed 45 kilometers per hour. The glass fiber shell was a monocoque with coil-sprung, undamped wheels. It featured with a clear bubble top with a detachable shopping basket. It was advertised that the Trident got 2.8 liters per per 100 kilometers fuel consumption, almost cheaper than walking. If this flamboyantly green car, commissioned by Birdseye, sellers of frozen vegetables, for a 2005 television commercial doesn't compel you to eat your veggies, nothing will, sometimes called the Volkswagen P-Car. It is actually a mishmash vehicle designed by a London-based company called Asylum, built on the chassis of an off-road go-kart. The P-Car features headlights from a VW Beetle and is fitted with a Honda engine. Though the car lacks gears, it can reach a top speed of approximately 60 miles per hour and was built to purposefully fall apart during the commercial. One may be mistaken to think this car was from a 1960s science fiction movie, but the Ferrari Modulo was designed by Paolo Martin and displayed at the 1970 Geneva Motor Show. Its strange angles and curves give the automobile a spaceship feel, like something out of Star Trek. Only one was ever produced. It was then sold to the American car enthusiast James Glickenhaus in 2014. The tiny Peele P50 was produced from 1962 to 1965 by the Peele Engineering Company on the Isle of Man. It was designed as a city car, with advertisement slogans announcing that it had enough room for one person and a shopping bag. The car is so small, in fact, that it can fit through normal doorways, enter buildings, and it can be quite easily lifted by one person. Approximately 45 Peele P50s were sold in the 1960s. After 50 years, production of this curious automobile restarted in 2011, though the number of cars sold each year remains quite small. Serving one of the most important people in the world, the Popemobile features a large, modern, bulletproof glass cupola that offers accessibility and visibility for the Pope during public visits. The Popemobile has now evolved from a fossil fuel variant to an all-electric variant. The Smart For2 and the Scion IQ are quite small, but the 1984 Honda Zoe Zipper is ridiculous. I would be inclined to call it a scooter mobile. It was originally built in Japan by Mitsuoka Motors. The three-wheeled car uses the two front wheels for steering and the rear wheel as the drive wheel, powered by a 50cc two-stroke Honda engine for forward motion. The only drawback is the single-seat cabin. Despite the 100 miles per gallon fuel economy at a top speed of 45 miles per hour, one has to wonder about safety. Somewhat evocative of a US Army Jeep, the Aston Mini Moke was produced in 1964 for the British Army, which ultimately rejected it due to its low ground clearance. While it appealed to some, the British Motor Corporation ceased production of this version after only 4 years. The Aston Mini Moke lacks doors and a hardtop, and it doesn't offer much else in the way of utility or fun. The light off-road vehicle was marketed for recreational and farm use, but ultimately, only 10% of the 14,500 made were sold domestically. The Chevy El Camino was a unique attempt at creating a combination coupe and pickup truck. Debuting in 1958, the El Camino didn't have the best start in terms of sales, even being nixed by the Chevy brand after just 2 years. However, in 1964, Chevy brought back the El Camino with the body style that it has been known for. Offered with a 300 horsepower V8, the '64 El Camino was a beast of American engineering. The combination coupe truck also featured a design that was more in line with the rest of the Chevrolet pickup cohort. The Gremlin was essentially an AMC Hornet with the back chopped off. The result is an oddly proportioned, poorly named subcompact car that's left a lasting impression. Was offered in 2-passenger and 4-passenger versions. Instead of a trunk or even a hatchback, the cargo space is accessed by lifting the rear window. In the 2-door version, the 4-door version has a fixed rear window, though it's hard to believe there was any cargo space left after adding 2 additional seats. It did sell reportedly. Both Bill Clinton and George Bush owned one at some point, but it was almost universally mocked and mechanically reviled. The goddess is best known for her distinctive looks and self-leveling suspension, but not everyone realizes just how overly complex, or perhaps we should say how French the DS really is. It's down to the hydro-pneumatique suspension, which isn't just a suspension. Its high-pressure hydraulic system also powers the steering, semi-automatic transmission, clutch, and the brakes, all of which are interconnected to improve the driving experience. This weird micro minivan started out as a perfectly good Fiat 600 with its tiny 0.6-liter four-cylinder mounted in the back. The 600 had its trunk up front until someone at Fiat had a better idea. Why not use that space for passengers? The resulting 600 Multipla had seating for up to 6 people. The 600 Multipla used the same 21 horsepower engine as the ordinary 600, with lower gearing as the only compensation for the extra weight. Fiat kept this strange little people carrier in production for more than a decade. Subaru's first automobile, the incredibly efficient Subaru 360's aerodynamic lines, garnered it the nickname Ladybug. With its 1,000-pound curb weight, swing axle rear suspension, rear hinge doors, and fiberglass roof panel, the Subaru 360 represented one of the most progressive automotive design of its day. It was one of Japan's most popular cars, available in two-door station wagon, convertible, and sport model variations. 10,000 were sold in the United States, utilizing a most unique advertising campaign. The Bond Bug is often regarded as the best of the British three-wheelers, in the same sense that Stachypatrese is often regarded as the best of toxic molds. Produced by parent company Reliant, the Bug has no doors. The entire greenhouse tilts forward for access to its 2 seats, and it's allegedly good fun to drive. The Smart Roadster W452 was a 2-door, 2-seater sports car, first introduced in 2002 by Smart GmbH. Sales of the Roadster and Roadster Coupe were mostly successful, and the production ended in November 2005 after 43,000 Roadsters were made. The last one built now resides in the Mercedes-Benz Museum. It is defined by a consortium between Switzerland, Germany, and France, whose vehicle remains made in France because it is built entirely at its Hambach factory in Moselle. And that wraps up our journey through the 30 weirdest cars of all time. We hope you enjoyed this wild ride with us. If you have any suggestions for future videos or want to share your thoughts on these peculiar automobiles, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you found it entertaining.